This is the midday moment for April the 10th, 2026. We were intending on doing these. Of course, at this point, this is the midday-ish moment, unless you live in Central Time Zone. At least when this first streams, I will likely repost this. But there were some things that happened that kept me from making any new videos there for a while. I will go into the story on that. If part of my nose seems a little swollen, I mean, I don't necessarily have. There is a story behind that, and due to some injuries, I actually did not do any videos for a while. But anyways, we have had some stuff. I did say we were going to start commenting a little bit on things going on in the world. We have had some stuff recently happen online. Imagine that, and imagine that it was something that our current president has said. Now, let me be on record. I do not agree with everything Donald Trump says or supports. Generally, I would be classified as conservative as far as my economics and politics goes. That comes from my worldview that's based upon Christ's word and not upon any party loyalty. I would, as far as a party goes, I'm more independent than anything. But I don't approve of everything he says. I definitely think he has supported some things that were out of line. I do think he has definitely said some things that were out of line. You know, things like speaking negatively about celebrities when they've died. It's out of line and crass, and frankly, it's wrong. But honor to whom honor is due. And there's definitely been some things he's supported and done that I do approve of. And once again, that's not out of being MAGA or something. I definitely would not be classified as MAGA. Some would classify me that way based upon certain stances I take, but I'm not. I'm not a diehard Donald Trump guy, no matter what sort of thing. But what he does that I agree with, I'm all for. And one thing that has just happened recently, I believe it was yesterday at this point, on Truth Social. At first, I thought it was on X. I didn't find it on X. Maybe it's on there. I just didn't find it. But I did find it on his social media project, Truth Social. Is that he has put up a post that has basically called out the ridiculousness of Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly and Alex Jones. Now, I understand these people have a lot of followers, a lot of conservative followers. But in recent years, well, at one point, I was probably to a degree, even with Alex Jones, a fan of these particular media personalities. Megyn Kelly, never known as much about her, but in recent times, with Tucker Carlson's downplaying of Islamic oppression, his straight up lies about Israel, including his recent very brief visit to there, his misrepresentation of how things went down while he was there, just things that are easily checkable, and yet he's so blatantly false about it, which is an insult to his listeners and an insult to everybody's intelligence. Candace Owens, with her ongoing paranoid, I don't really say anti-Semitism anymore, Jew hatred that she apparently does has, repeating some of the same old anti-Semitic tropes. This recent weirdness with this constantly shifting narrative against Erica Kirk, the one that she said was one of only two people that could get her to be silent and could tell her to stop. And when Erica Kirk did, she decided she was going to go after, or at least it seemed like that's when she decided she was going to go after Erica Kirk. But this constant crusade where she's led this mob in slandering and saying some of the most horrible things against Charlie Kirk's widow, just total violation of biblical principles about the treatment of widows. Alex Jones, who kind of been a mixed bag over the years, as with any of these people, there's going to be some things I'm going to agree with, but just the whole Sandy Hook thing that went down, where you had children that were slaughtered, were murdered, and then he's doing all his conspiracy theorist stuff about it. And of course, Megyn Kelly, who's just kind of been, just kind of back and forth and just more showing her grifter side, and just the foul mouth that she has shown recently. Just ridiculous, like junior high level, just foulness that constantly from her. Well, Trump is no stranger to being foul mouthed. So that's, once again, I don't agree when he does that. But in this case, he's called out people that need to be called out. He has called out people that need to be called out. In Romans 16:17, we have this warning against false teachers when it comes to the church. When you look at there in Titus, Titus chapter 1, verse 11, where Paul talks about these false teachers who are subverting whole households, and their mouths must be stopped. Now, don't take me bringing up that verse as saying, we should cancel free speech, because, nobody's calling for anybody to be deplatformed. As Tucker Carlson just deceitfully presented at the TPUSA thing, and Ben Shapiro's speech was, while I don't agree with all the words he used, was definitely on the money with that. But rather, we have this concept that there are people that their message needs to be stood against. And of course, in the context of the church, you don't give them a platform. And how does it apply to this stuff that's been going on? Well, there is a concept that truth must be upheld. Agape rejoices in truth. Speculation is not truth. Questioning, that is, just asking questions, but it's to direct people's thoughts towards a certain narrative. That's not just questioning. That's manipulation for an intended outcome. That's not just questioning. And yes, everybody should be able to be questioned. And yes, in a free society, you can ask questions, and you should be able to. But this other stuff, this thing where the First Lady of France is supposed to be a man, despite apparently a plethora of evidence to the contrary, and just hammering down on these ideas. These people need to be stood against. Conservatives that are supporting them, really, a lot of it may be done out of ignorance, but need to be ashamed of themselves. Christians supporting these people, it needs to stop. And once again, don't support everything the president says, but on this, honor to whom honor is due. Thank God that President Donald Trump did speak up against these grifting, horrible people, because that's what they are. And yes, they have done some good in the past, but currently they are leading just a mob that is wrapped up in conspiracy theory and apparently delight in bullying a good man's widow. And yes, growing the hatred of the Jewish people and the paranoia around the nation of Israel, which, while I'm sure I have plenty of disagreements with them, but this constantly, Israel's behind everything, the Jews are behind everything. It needs to stop. And so thank God that President Donald Trump did speak up on these things. You have a good rest of the day. And Lord willing, be with you here in a little bit for Friday Freedom. And at some point, I will tell you the bigger story behind why I was not making any new videos there for a while. And shalom.